all the books, most of the books of Srila Prabhupada. So if you see that starting from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the cantos of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And all these books are there, right? All these books. Most of the books that Prabhupada has written and translated. So we are reading On the Way to Krishna, which is here. And so far we have completed 2 chapters of On the Way to Krishna. The first one, through Way to Happiness. We talked about happiness. We talked about eternal happiness and temporary happiness from this material world. Then in the second chapter, we learned how we attain Lord Krishna by knowing him and by chanting. In order to do what? To get that eternal happiness that we learned, right, in the first chapter. Then today we are going to see the third chapter. We're going to read the third chapter, which is Seeing Krishna Everywhere and Always. So happiness just doesn't, is not like an incident where when we eat food, we feel happy, but then after that, we are just same, right? But if we get Krishna, then that eternal happiness that we have, that, on that platform, it ever increases and increases and increases. And in that way, we can see Krishna everywhere and always. So, once we come into that state of consciousness, then we will be eternally happy. So this third chapter is about that. So before we get into the chapter, we are going to say what? Our prayers, right? So let's say our prayers. You all are welcome to unmute yourself and say along. We'll just say the pranam mantras, the short one, and then we will get started. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you everyone for wonderful prayers. Okay, so we will get into our third chapter. Let's see, it is a little big, so I'm assuming that we will do the same thing. We might have to split this into this week and next week, but we'll try to get as much as we can today. Seeing Krishna everywhere and always. In our practical life, Krishna instructs us how to invoke Krishna consciousness. It is not that we are to stop executing our duty or cease from activities. Rather, activities have to be conducted in Krishna consciousness. Everyone has a vocation in life, but with what consciousness does he enter upon it? Everyone is thinking, oh, I must have a vocation in order to maintain my family, society, government, or family have to be satisfied, and no one is free from such consciousness. One has to be in proper consciousness to execute any activity nicely. He whose consciousness is agitated, who is like a madman, cannot execute any duty. We should execute our duty properly, but we should do it thinking to satisfy Krishna. It is not that we have to change our process of work, but we have to understand for whom we are working. Whatever activities we have to do, we must execute, but should should not be carried away from kama desire. The Sanskrit word kama is used to indicate lust, desire, or sense gratification, sense satisfaction. Such Sri Krishna instructs that we should not work for the satisfaction of kama or our own lust. The whole teaching of Bhagavad Gita is based on this principle. So, see, you see in the gradual transition how Prabhupada first started in this book explaining what the happiness is, what the temporary and eternal happiness difference between that, right? And how to attain that consciousness, or how to attain Lord Krishna by chanting and knowing him, right? By establishing that loving relationship with him, re-establishing, which we have already forgotten, that relationship is always there, but just reviving our relationship back to the Lord. Here you see Prabhupada is taking us to the next level. Say, we understand that whatever we are doing in this world in search of happiness, are temporary in nature, but we are gearing ourselves on the journey of the eternal happiness, on the eternal path where we don't have to change the bodies. In the second chapter, we also, in the first part of the second chapter, we saw how we are just changing the bodies from one body to another and to another and another. So coming to that eternal life. So while we are doing all that, do we have to stop doing whatever we are doing right now and just only do the Krishna conscious activities in terms of, like, say, chanting is there, reading is there, Shravanam, Kirtanam, all those things that Acharyas give process. Are we supposed to do only those things and we stop doing whatever we have to do, like stop going to school, stop going to, places? Do we have to do that? No, all those things have to continue. But what has to change then? Only the consciousness that we are doing it in. We have to understand the things in the right perspective. So, like, if we are going to a job or if we are going to school, right? We don't have to stop going to school. We still have to go to school. These parents still have to go to the jobs and, earn the money for maintaining the family. Do they have to stop doing that? Do we have to stop going to school and understanding, this knowledge that we may gain is just, giving us some skills to maintain our lives, but our lives itself are not permanent, they are temporary, right? So do we stop doing those things? No. So even while doing all those things, all we have to do is we have to just change our consciousness. We have to do everything in connection to Lord Krishna. Say, very simple example. Say if we are going to school, for what are we going to school? We are going to school to go get some education, to get some skills like that will help us earn jobs in future, right? Or work or earn money. Why do we have to do jobs and earn money? To maintain the family. Why do we have to maintain the family? So that we can bring them to Krishna consciousness. If that is the goal, even going to the school right now is a service to Krishna, right? Is it right? Because unless you had gone to school, unless you had done your exams correctly, unless you had studied for the exams nicely, unless you had got a good job or a work situation or, your own business, whatever your means of earning are, unless all those things have done, how will you raise your family nicely in Krishna consciousness? How will you give Krishna to them? How will you train them? So again, so we have to see things in the right perspective. For the motive of all those things that we are doing is not for just mere satisfaction of our senses. It is not for that. And what is that mere satisfaction of our own senses is called? Kama. It is not just to satisfy our desires. It is for the service of the Lord. Say parents are going for work, even that is a service to the Lord. If it is done in a consciousness that, okay, I have to go bring money, I have to go earn money and make a house in which deities can reside and in which we can have a nice, beautiful altar for the Lord, and we can invite the Lord to come and reside there and accept our service. And then we cook for the Lord, and children sing for the Lord. Children practice their kirtans. Children read the books about Krishna, and we can invite other guests to come. So all those things would require resources, right? So everything that we do, we can connect back to the Krishna so long. And how do we connect back to Krishna? What does it mean? So long as our goal of life is to become Krishna conscious and to make others Krishna conscious, and to give Krishna consciousness even to the family, then everything that we do is a service to the Lord. And this is actually the basic principle, the whole teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that whatever you do it as an offering to me. Remember that shloka from Bhagavad Gita? Whatever you eat, whatever you do, whatever you deal with, just do it as an offering to me, as a service to the Lord. And then we are not bound by that karma that it comes. We are not bound by those reactions if we are doing it in a consciousness to please the Lord. And then we are not bound in that cycle of birth and death and old age and disease and birth again, old age, disease, death. And this is the whole basic principle of Bhagavad Gita. Is that right? So you see how we started, and gradually Prabhupada is saying, everything must be done, but in connection with Krishna, as a service to Krishna. Right? Okay. Let's read one more paragraph here. Arjuna wanted to satisfy his senses by refraining from fighting with his relative, but Krishna spoke to him to convince him to execute his duty for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Materially, it may be very pious that he is giving up his claim for kingdom and refusing to kill his relatives. But Krishna did not approve of that, because the principle for Arjuna's decision was to satisfy his own senses. One's business or occupation needs to be changed, as Arjuna was not changed, but one does have to change his consciousness. In order to change this consciousness, however, knowledge is required. That knowledge is knowing I am part and parcel of Krishna and the superior energy of Krishna. That is the real knowledge. Relative knowledge may teach us how to repair machines, but the real knowledge is knowing our position as being an integral with Krishna, being part of him. Our pleasure, which is partial, is dependent on the whole. For instance, my hand can take pleasure when it is attached to my body and serves it. It does not take pleasure in serving another's body, because we are part of Krishna. Our pleasure is in serving him. I cannot be happy serving you. Everyone is thinking, I can be only happy serving myself, but no one knows who the self is. That self is Krishna. Mamaevangsho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana manaha sasthanindriyani prakriti sthani karshati. The living entity in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental part. Due to the conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with 6 senses. which includes the mind. Okay, so how many senses we have, first of all? 5, correct? The sense of seeing, the sense of smelling, sense of tasting, sense of hearing, and sense of touch. Besides that, what's the 6th that Krishna is explaining in this verse? That is the mind, right? We enjoy with the mind, like we meditate on certain thoughts, and we have propensities to enjoy certain things. Okay, so that mind is actually also an abode of all these senses. So all these senses are actually then collected, that and that they are placed, or the mind is the function. The mind's function is dealing with all these senses. So mind is also a 6th one that is Krishna is including here. So in this paragraph, what Prabhupada is trying to explain us, that just by refraining from activities, we cannot run away like Arjuna. I mean, it seemed very nice that Arjuna didn't want it to fight, right? He didn't want it to kill because on the principle. But then, if you think on a bigger level, he was not fighting against the people who were doing something wrong in the society. Those people were, spreading the cruelty in the society. So it was Arjuna's duty to fight against that adharma, that wrong deed, or wrong thing that they were doing. Not just merely thinking that, oh, okay, they are my relatives and, I don't want to fight. Yes. But did Krishna approve that? No. So what is more important here? Intention. Intention internally. Why we are doing anything, whatever we are doing. If it is to satisfy the Lord, then we don't get reactions of those things, because we are not doing it for us, our own sense pleasure or our own satisfaction. We are doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. And if person has such a consciousness, then they can never do a wrong thing, first of all, because Krishna will guide them to do the right thing from within. And that's what Krishna did to Arjuna, right? Even though Arjuna wasn't ready to fight, Krishna said, no, it is your duty to fight against the adharma. You're not fighting against the people. If you just think on the bodily level, then yeah, they might seem like, your relatives, but you're fighting against the adharma. So that's your duty to fight. So similarly, whatever we are doing in our lives, we have to understand the higher principle. We all have to understand why we are doing that, whatever we are doing. If we are going to school to become eventually, a good people and, serve the society in some or the other way, and spread Krishna consciousness, then even going to school today is a service to the Lord. It is a devotional service to the Lord, as long as it is done in that consciousness that why we are going. If we are going to school today to earn a job which gives us money, and then we spend that money just in only going to the cinemas, going to the vacation, going to the beach, is that a service to the Lord then? No, right? Very, very simple to understand. It is not very difficult to understand. Krishna consciousness is very easy path. A person has to really, really put their, in their heart to it. What Prabhupada is trying to explain is, it is very simple process. All we have to do is just do whatever we are doing in the right consciousness. And part of that is to understand that I'm the eternal part of the Lord. And my eternal happiness is connected in serving the Lord. Just like Prabhupada in the second, another way he explained is with this analogy of a hand and the body, right? Say if the hand thinks that, oh, okay, I'm the one who is cooking, I'm the one who is bringing the vegetables, I'm the one who is cutting the vegetables, I'm the one who is putting the spices, and making the food ready. It's only hand that I should enjoy that food. And I should not give that food to the stomach. What will happen over the time? Will that hand get all the nutrition? Will that hand even, be in a state to do anything further? If it doesn't feed the stomach, if it says no, a hand says that no, I am the one who has done all that, and I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm not going to give that food to the stomach. What will happen? But if the hand thinks that, okay, I have done all this, but I'm connected to the body, so it feeds the body, and then in return, hand also gets the nutrition and the energy to do everything. Correct? So similarly, because we are integral part. Integral word is very important here. It cannot be detached ever. We are just separated here. When we come here, it's Krishna's desire to relish that bond of love with the jivas, but then jiva has developed all these desires to enjoy, and that's why we have come here. We are put here in this material world to purify ourselves. But that bond is always there. That relationship with the Lord is always there. And we are meant to serve, just like hand is meant to serve the body. We are meant to serve the Lord. And if we understand that basic principle, then whatever we are doing, we are actually ultimately only going to, if we do it with the consciousness that we are serving the Lord, it is for the service for the Lord, not for our own senses pleasure or enjoyment, then everything becomes a service to the Lord. So we can see Krishna everywhere in everything that we are doing. Correct? It doesn't have to be only limited to this 1 hour of class that we are listening, or half an hour or 1 hour of japa that we would be doing, or some program that we would be attending, or going to the temple. No, Krishna consciousness is constant. It's satat, that is the word used in Bhagavad Gita. It is spontaneous, it is forever. As long as we understand that we are part and just integral part of the Lord, we are meant to serve Him. And if we do it in everything that we do in that consciousness, then we can see Krishna everywhere. Okay. Who would like to read one paragraph here? The beginning here. Let's see. Okay, Manohar, you have your hands up. Go ahead.
Okay, Mataji. The jivas or living entities are now detached from the whole due to the material contact. It is therefore necessary for us to strive to attach ourselves again to the latent Krishna consciousness that is within us. Artificially, we're trying to forget Krishna and live independently, but this is not possible. When we strive to live independent of Krishna, we come under the influence of the laws of material nature. If one thinks he is independent of Krishna, he becomes dependent on the illusory energy of Krishna. Just as if one thinks that he is independent of the government and its regulations, he becomes dependent on the police force. Everyone is trying to become independent, and this is called Maya illusion. Individually, communally, socially, nationally, or universally, it is not possible to become independent. When we come to realize that we are dependent, we will have attained knowledge. Today, so many people are striving for peace in the world, but they do not know how to implement that peace formula. The United Nations have been striving for peace for so many years, but still war is going on.
Thank you, Manohar. So the verse Prabhupada is quoting here is what? Yacha Sarvabhutanam Bijam Tat Aham Arjuna Natad Asti Vina Yatsyan Maya Bhutam Characharam. Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existence. There are no beings, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me. Exist without me. That's what. Can the hand exist just by itself with no body? Will it be doing all that stuff that the hand is doing now? No. Similarly, we cannot even exist without, Krishna. How? The air that we are breathing, is it Krishna's energy? Did we create the air? The water that we drink, that we need? The fruit that we get from the vegetables, the vegetation that we get from the earth, the sunlight, it's all Krishna's energy. We cannot even have our own existence independently from Krishna. We're using all this Krishna's energies even for our own existence. And we think that, oh, I am independent, I am just... No, we have, everything is there. But all we have forgotten that. So here Krishna is saying that I am that seed giving Father. I am the seed generating of all that exists. Whether moving means we are moving, and non-moving is which living entities? Trees, plants. Nobody can exist without Krishna. So, but what we have done is we have forgotten all that, our relationship, our eternal bond, and why we are created for. And then we get stuck in what? In the illusory energy of the Lord. And what is that illusory energy of the Lord called? Maya. Okay. Let's see. Somebody had their hands up. We'll read more. Who has their hands up? Govinda, you have your hand up. You want to read?
Yeah, which one? Krishna is the...
Yes.
Okay, Krishna is the proprietor of everything, the illuminated benefactor, and the recovery on the religion of everything. We make congestion ourselves to be the proprietor of the fruits and of our labor. But this is a miscomprehension. We must come to understand that Krishna is the
ultimate
proprietor of the fruits of all of our works. Hundreds of people may be
working
in an office, but they understand that whatever property the business make belongs to the proprietor. As soon as a tellers at the bank thinks, oh, I have so much money, I am the proprietor, let me take it home with me. The trouble begins if we lust, but
if we think
that we can be whatever wealth we have amazed for our own sense gratification, we are acting out of karma.
Right.
Lust. But if we come to
understand that everything we have belongs to Krishna.
We are liberated.
We are liberated. We may have the same money in our hands, but as soon as we think that we are the proprietor, we are under the illusion of Maya. One who is suited in the consciousness that everything belongs to Krishna is a actual learning man.
Very nice. Thank you, Govinda. So very simple example, very easy way to understand. See, Prabhupada makes Krishna consciousness so simple for us to understand. If Prabhupada is giving an example of a bank teller here, right? When we go to the bank, have we seen somebody would greet us and tell us, okay, how can I help you? And, they have the kiosk or their desk, and, whatever we have to do in the bank, if we have to withdraw the money, or we have to take the money, or, we have to deposit the money or checks, whatever, we go to them and, we do the transaction with them. That person is called what? A teller. That person, he works for the bank, and he works for the customers who come, or the customers of the bank. So he gives service to them. Now, say, we deposited certain amount of money to the teller. And if that teller thinks, that bank officer thinks, oh, I have so much money, because it is in my hand. Just because that money is in their hand, just because you deposited and gave that money to that person, and of course, there was a transaction between that, the entry was made in your account. But does that now money, he thinks that he's the proprietor? What does a proprietor means? Proprietor means the master, right? To whom the things belong. So if he starts thinking, I am the proprietor of this money, just because if it is in my hand, I'm the proprietor now, let me take it home. What will happen? He's going to be in a trouble. And that's exactly what's happening with us. We have everything. We have possessions, we have families, we have all these things that are there around us. But do they really belong to us? Do this house belong to us? Yeah, legally we may be the documented owner of the house, but really does it belong to us? Who created these stones or walls or wood that is used in the house? Who is the proprietor of those things? Is the Lord himself. So how can we claim us being the proprietor of that? And even though we may be the owner now of the house legally, what will happen at the time when we have to leave the body? Then that proprietorship passes on to someone else, right? To our relatives, correct? So who is it? Like, are we really we have to give up all these possessions, assets? What to say of, everything else? We have to give up even this body, right? So we are not the real proprietors, and that's where the trouble begins. Because we think that all these things belong to me and I can enjoy them. They are meant for my enjoyment. No, that's actually where the trouble begins. So Prabhupada is quoting a verse here. Ishavasham idam sarvam, and this is from where? Who knows this verse is from where? Ishopanishad. Ishavasham sarvam yatkincha jagatam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitaha magraha pridhaha kasyasvidhanam. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for him, which are set aside as his quota, and one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. this consciousness of Ishavasya. Everything belongs to Krishna, must be revived, not only individually, but nationally and universally. Then there will be peace. We often tend to be philanthropic and altruistic, and we strive to be friends with our countrymen, with our families, with all people in the world. But this is based on the wrong conception. The real friend is Krishna. And if we want to benefit our family, nation, planet, we will work for him. If we have our own family's welfare in mind, we will try to make all members Krishna conscious. There are so many men trying to benefit their families, but unfortunately, they do not succeed. They do not know the real problem is. As Bhagavatam says, one should not attempt to become father, mother, or a teacher unless he is able to save his children from death, from the grip of material nature. See, this is very, very important, that unless we do things in the right perspective, we really don't even deserve to have those things. So like a father, a mother, or a teacher, unless they are able to, save the child from this grip of birth, old age, disease, death, birth, old age, disease, death, right? Unless they are able to give them this consciousness, unless they are able to, give knowledge to the children where they can see the things in the right perspective, they don't even deserve to be. Prabhupada is saying that they don't deserve to be so-called like father, mother, teacher. That's the primary duty. That's the very, very primary duty. We're all trying to be, we may think of our family welfare, we may think of a nation welfare, but if we don't understand that all this, even that family members whose welfare I'm trying to do, are part and parcel of Krishna. So the main duty is to become Krishna consciousness self and to give to others, family members, nation, planet, everybody you see. That's how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Jare dekho tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. Tell them about Krishna. And that's the ultimate welfare. Yes, you can, that doesn't mean, going back to the very first paragraph, that doesn't mean that other things stop. But yes, everything continues to do as it is, but in right consciousness. But understanding that Krishna is the supreme, I am the part and parcel of the Krishna, I am meant to serve the Lord. And everything has to be continued to do in the same way with the right consciousness. The father should be in knowledge of Krishna, and he should be determined that the innocent children who are entrusted to him will not undergo the cycle of birth and death again. He should be resolved to train his children in such a way that they will no longer have to be subjected to the painful cycle of birth and death. But before one can do this, he has to make himself expert. So it starts from our own self. Unless I am Krishna consciousness, how can I give to others? So likewise, first we have to become Krishna consciousness, or Krishna conscious ourselves. We have to understand the things in the right perspective. We have to have that knowledge, and then we can pass it on to our all family and nation and society and neighbors and country and the people. But if he himself is bound by ignorance, how can he unite others who are similarly bound? Before one can make others free, he must be free himself. Actually, no one is a free man, for everyone is under the spell of material nature. But one who is suppressed by Krishna cannot be touched by Maya. He of all men is free. If one places himself in the sunlight. There is no question of darkness, but if one places himself in an artificial light, it may flicker and go out. Krishna is just like a sunlight. Where he is present, there is no question of darkness and ignorance. The wise men, the Mahatmas, understand this. So if we are in the sunlight, how will there ever be darkness? It's not possible. This is Prabhupada is quoting verse here. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samavita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly knows this engages in my devotional service and worships me with all their hearts. In this verse, the word Buddha is used, which indicates the wise man or one who is learned. What is the symptom? He knows that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, of all animations. He knows that whatever he sees is but an animation of Krishna. In the material world, sex life is most important preeminent factor. Sexual attraction is found in all species of life. One may ask where it comes from. The wise men understand that the tendency is in Krishna and it is revealed in his relationship with the damsels of Raj. Whatever is found in the material world can be found in perfection in Krishna. The difference is that the material world, everything is manifested in a perverted form. Perverted means upside down or ulta, like we say in Hindi, right? In Krishna, all these tendencies are manifestation, and manifestation exists in pure consciousness in the spirit. One who knows this is in full knowledge and becomes a pure devotee of Krishna. Okay, so the verse we will read here. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivam prakritimashritha bhajanti ananya manaso jnatva bhutadim avyayam satatam kritanyanto mam kitayanto mam yatantascha dridhavritha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. O son of Pritha, one who is not deluded, the great soul, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in the devotional service because they know me as the supreme personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Krishna is saying this in the 9th chapter, 13th and 14th shloka, that the souls who, this is about the surrendership to the Lord, was always chanting and glorifying the Lord with dridhavrita. Dridhavrita means what? Dridha means very strong, and vrita means determination, or you make certain vows. Those vows are like done with a great determination. So if someone has that strong surrendership to the Lord, Lord is saying that they always worship me with their devotion. That's the devotion to the Lord. Okay, so let's read a little more. Okay, would someone like to read this small paragraph? Yes, Sanvi, go ahead. Who is the great soul? We'll read from there.
Okay, who is the great soul? The Mahatma. It is who is under the influence of superior energy. At present, We are under the influence of Krishna's inferior energy. As living entities, our position is marginal. We can transfer ourselves to either the two energies. Krishna is fully independent and we are a part and parcel of him. We also have this quality of independence. Therefore, we have no choice as to which the energy will function under because we are ignorant of the superior nature. We have no alternative but to remain in the inferior nature.
So the last line, therefore, we have a choice to which energy we will function under. So let's understand. Krishna is saying that we are eternally, he is the seed-giving father, right? And we are eternal part of the Lord. But also at the same time, Krishna is explaining that we are the marginal energy. We are like a marginal energy. What does that mean by? So there is an external energy, which is this material world. And Krishna is saying that all this external energy is made of what? 8 things: earth, fire, water, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. These 8 things, Ashta Prakriti, Ashtada Prakriti. So this is all 8 things. This comprises the whole universe. All these things that we are seeing manifested are made from these things. Then there is even our bodies, right? The bodies are made from these 8 things: earth, fire, water, air, ether, and mind, intelligence. And then we have our identity that we think, that's false ego. And there is internal energy, which is the Lord's internal energy, the self. And we, the jivas, not this body, but the soul, is the marginal energy. It's like on the boundary. It can place itself in the external energy, or it can place itself in the internal energy. And what does it mean by placing itself in the external energy? We come under the influence of the Maya Devi, or this illusory energy of the Lord. Versus we have a choice to remain with the Lord in his internal energy, and have that and have that consciousness, and be in that consciousness that we are integral part and meant to satisfy the Lord. If we think that we are meant to satisfy this body, then we are actually in the external energy. So we have a choice, right? We have a choice. So that's what Krishna is explaining here. We have a choice that we can either satisfy, just live in the external energy, just think of mere satisfaction of the body and do everything in connection to the body, or we understand the truth, the ultimate truth, that we are part and parcel of the Lord and we are meant to serve the Lord. And our eternal pleasure lies in the pleasure of the Lord. Some philosophies propound that there is no nature other than the one who are presently experiencing, that the only solution to this is to nullify and to become void. But we cannot be void because we are living entities. It does not mean that we are finished just because we change our bodies, but we can get out of the influence of the material nature. We have to understand where our place actually is, where are we to go. If we do not know where to go, then we will simply say, oh, we do not know what is the superior and inferior. All we know is this. So let's just stay here and rot. The Bhagavad Gita, however, gives us the information of the spiritual energy, the superior nature. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he's explaining Tadhama Paramam Mama, right? If you reach that eternal abode. And Krishna is explaining everything about how there is, this material world, there is no sun. The material world is lit by the sun, right? There's no sun, there is no light. Even though if we may have lights in the houses, but these are also form of somehow or other, these are transformed form of the sunlight. Or Krishna is explaining in great depth that how this material world, and there is something beyond this material world, that's the spiritual world. And here Prabhupada is explaining us how we have a choice to be in either or based on what we really identify ourselves with. So we have few minutes, so we'll read a little more. What Krishna speaks, he speaks for all eternity. It does not change. It does not matter what our present occupation or what Arjuna's occupation was. We only have to change our consciousness. At present, we are guided by the consciousness of self-interest. Right? Do we think right now, okay, this is good for me, this is good, bad for me? But what is the definition of that good that we are trying to make? Okay, this is good, but what is that good actually? Is it good for your body, or is it good for your, like, really the soul? Right? So here Krishna is explaining, at present we are guided by the consciousness of self-interest, but we do not know what our real self-interest is. Actually, we do not have the self-interest, but the sense interest. The just gratification of these senses. Oh, I want to eat nice. I want to hear something nice. I want to smell something nice. So this is all mere satisfaction of our senses. Whatever we are doing to satisfy the senses. It is this consciousness that has to be changed. In its place, we must implant our real self-interest, that is Krishna consciousness. So what is the real self-interest? Say if whatever we are doing, will we take birth again? Will we take birth again? Yes,
No.
with that consciousness.
Yes.
If we think that, okay, whatever, let me just enjoy, I don't care about, where I came from, who am I really? I know I have this body, now let me enjoy. If the person is enjoying, yes, it might give him a lot of pleasure, going vacations, cinemas, and all those things that he's doing just to please the senses and mind. But what will happen at the end of the life? He will have to give up the body someday, right? We all have to give up the body someday. And what will happen then? Will he come back again?
Yeah,
Yes.
he will have to give birth again because he will be wasting his life.
Exactly. And what is that real self-interest Prabhupada is explaining here? That is to get out of this cycle of birth and death, to revive that relationship back to the Lord, and to purify ourselves. How this is done? How is it possible to become Krishna conscious in every step of our life? Actually, Krishna makes it very easy for us. What is he saying in 7th chapter? Krishna is saying, Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi surayo pranavaha sarva vedeshu shabdakhe paurusham rishu. O son of Kunti, Arjuna, I am the taste in water, the light in the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in the ether and the ability in man. So, isn't that not true? I mean, would the water exist if Krishna had put the taste in it?
Yeah.
Would the water exist? No. Would there be light? If Krishna did not light in the sun, would there be light in the sun?
No.
Krishna is saying that I am all that we see. Everything that is there in this world, in this material world, connection to the Lord. Okay, so we will pause here. and we'll continue next week. But I want to know from you guys, what did you learn today, or anything that you want to share, or any your own realizations by listening to today's reading and discussion? Anybody would like to share anything, or would ask any questions or anything? I would like you to, participate more, like whatever we are discussing. It should not be just listening. It should be trying to realize and trying to, share at the same time your own realizations with others. That will be really, really nice. So let's see who would like to share anything or ask any question. Yes, Manohar.
So in this book, like Prabhupada is like saying that if you go to like vacation and that stuff and don't do anything else, your life will be wasted. So like if everyone like does just vacation and like does something else like vacation or just
Senses.
satisfy our senses, then their life will be wasted.
Right. And versus if we do everything that we have to do in connection to the Lord, like we have to go to school, we have to understand why we have to go to school. If we have to go to work, we have to understand why we have to go to work. If we see everywhere Krishna, if we see
You actually, Miss Kiran Mataji, this is Govinda.
Yes, go ahead, Govinda.
But you go to the school, it is a seva.
Yes, it is a service. If you understand why you're going to school, to gain knowledge, to gain skills. But why do you have to gain that skills, and why do you have to gain that knowledge? So that you can become Krishna conscious. You can earn money for making a house for deities, for making your family Krishna conscious. So you're going to the school is also a seva, correct? Very nice. Thank you, Govinda. Yes, Sanvi, you have to say something.
I realized that like every time if we like spoil ourselves with everything, we won't get anything and we will waste our lives. And also I also learned that we shouldn't claim stuff as our own, even though we know it's like it's belonging to someone else.
Yeah, Krishna is the ultimate proprietor. We are just temporary, maybe things are awarded to us, but Krishna is the ultimate proprietor. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, so I would like all others also to share, okay, next class, and we'll continue again in next class. So we'll end here. So let's just say our pranam mantras. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so we all will see you next week. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.